Kia ora, and welcome to Aotearoa's Opportunity, a podcast where we talk about fair pay agreements and how they can help us tackle some of Aotearoa's most urgent issues.
In this podcast, everyday workers will be sharing their stories about the issues that they deal with in their industries and how we can discuss solutions that FPAs will have to offer.
So, no mai, haere mai, and welcome to Aotearoa's Opportunity. Kia ora koutou, everyone, and welcome to the last episode of Aotearoa's Opportunity, the podcast about fair pay agreements in New Zealand. This is a bit of a bittersweet episode this time because, of course, at this point in time, the Fair Pay Agreement Act has been repealed just a couple of days ago. Parliament did this under urgency. They ignored official advice. They worked to rush it through just before Christmas. And we know that as a result of this, over 300,000 working people are going to miss out on probable pay rises in the realm of hundreds of millions of dollars. They're going to miss out on all of the opportunities that fair pay agreements brought with them, skills and training and health and safety improvements and improvements to other terms and conditions at work as well. So it's a sad time for working people in New Zealand, and we're going to spend this episode looking at the final days of the Fair Pay Agreements Act, what unions and working people did in that time to try and stop the repeal of the Fair Pay Agreement Act. But we're also going to look ahead to the future because unions and working people haven't given up on the need for fair pay agreements. We still know that the challenges which fair pay agreements were designed to try and solve still exist. They're going to keep existing, and they're potentially going to be exacerbated by other changes that this government are wanting to make as well. So the need for industry standard bargaining is still there. The need for more equitable workplaces, for workers to have fairer pay and better terms and conditions, the need for coordinated industries is still there, and we're determined to bring back fair pay agreements. We'll talk a bit more about the strategies that we're thinking about in the future and let you know what you can do to support fair pay agreements being brought back.
Morena, good to see you here this morning. Unfortunately, it's not a good day for workers though, because today we're expecting this government to rush through legislation to repeal fair pay agreements. Fair pay agreements were in train for hundreds of thousands of vulnerable and essential workers, bus drivers, security, cleaners, supermarkets, hospitality workers and so on. Those workers are now being denied decent paying conditions going forward. It's a tragedy for working people, and it really goes to the heart of the character of the incoming government, that they made it a top priority to deny workers decent pay. And we know that what they were worried about was not only workers getting decent pay, but it was workers freely associating and collectively negotiating a better deal. So we've got a petition to give to you. It represents signatures of 15,000 workers who have quickly come together and said, please stop this tragedy. Please stop this travesty of workers' rights. So we ask that you take that petition and you make our views felt in there where they're just not listening. And I'll hand it over now to a worker to speak.
I would like you guys to take these 15,000 signatures as a beacon of hope. The fight isn't over, and we will continue fighting.
Well, thank you all very much for being here today. It is a very sad day for working people. We're seeing this government as anti-worker. It's decided to attack two things that we know are really important to people and to working people, and that's wages and jobs. Those are their first two moves that they have done in government, and it really shows where their priorities are. We were very, very proud to bring in fair pay agreements. We know that there was a considerable amount of work done by all your unions, by NZI Aotearoa, by Unite, by First Union, by the New Zealand Council of Trade Unions, and a lot of working people throughout New Zealand to make fair pay agreements a reality. And we know that the reason that they were so important is that working people know that the only way to really lift productivity in New Zealand, and the only way to have quality jobs and to have security in employment and fairer terms and conditions is to have industry-based bargaining. And we've seen in other countries that that's resulted in higher productivity and better conditions. We've seen countries like Australia do better than New Zealand. And the Minister, yesterday when we asked her in Parliament, she didn't seem to understand the connection between those two things. We understand that. We know even organisations like the OECD are coming round to the perspective that a flexible labour market is actually not what delivers for working people. What delivers for working people are terms and conditions that are fair, is secure work and good wages. That's what we're really committed to doing moving forward. Incredibly sad to see this. These 15,000 voices, we will take these into Parliament. Petitions are not small things. Big changes come from petitions. We know that women's rights to suffrage was won through petitions. We know that there have been various campaigns throughout the years that have been started with petitions. And so we know that even though today's a sad day with the repeal, this is the first step on building a campaign to make sure we do get that industry agreements back in New Zealand and that working people get the rights and conditions that they deserve.
Kia ora, tēnā tātou katoa. Just here in grand solidarity with the workers. Gutted, mate. Just gutted. Gutted for you. Gutted for us. Gutted for Aotearoa. I know you guys put in so much work in terms of getting this fair pay agreement legislation over the line, and I know people have been working hard to get those agreements in place. Palmerston North, I was on the picket line with the ECE teachers as well. I know how hard they work. My sister-in-laws are all early childhood teachers, and the pay parity gaps between people in some of the centres and in the kindergartens is massive. So this would have done something to actually sort out the parity gap as well. And all the other work that the workers have been doing as well, our cleaners, our people that move our buses around so that we can get to places, people that look after us in this place, clean up after us. This lot, taking the rights off the workers 2 weeks before Christmas. 2 weeks before Christmas. Cancel culture, this lot. They're cancelling Christmas for the workers. They're like the Grinch that stole Christmas, the Grinch that privatised Christmas. Nothing for the poor, nothing for the workers under the Christmas tree this year, except for cigarettes. Because all they're focusing on is things that make the tobacco companies happy, oil and gas companies happy, whoever else gave them money to get them into power. But I would encourage you to keep fighting. I would encourage you to keep making those connections. We'll do what we can to hold these guys to account. Kia ora, tēnā tātou.
Kia ora.
Thanks very much.
I call the Honourable Brooke Van Velden.
Madam Speaker, the Fair Pay Agreements Act repeal bill repeals the Fair Pay Agreements Act and associated amendments to other acts and revokes associated regulations. Once the Fair Pay Agreements Act is repealed, bargaining for initiated fair pay agreements will cease, as there will be no legislative mechanism to bring any agreements into force. My clear intention with this repeal bill is for the fair pay agreement system to stop. Fair pay agreements were never about fairness. They forced a minority of union workers' views on all affected workers and all affected businesses within an industry. This government supports higher wages and better conditions for workers, especially during a cost of living crisis. But if fair pay agreements had been finalised, the costs of doing business would have increased across the board, which means the prices of goods and services for businesses would be likely to rise too. That's not good for businesses, consumers, or workers. No workers, and I want to make this very clear, no workers will have their wages cut or be worse off compared with the status quo because no fair pay agreements have been signed or finalised. Far from being fair or even being about pay, the fair pay agreements were about harming the very workers they were meant to help. And that is why this government has opposed it and why we have brought this bill to repeal the Fair Pay Agreements Act to Parliament. I commend the bill to the House.
Honourable Ginny Anderson. So what I'd like to speak to, Madam Speaker, is the words of Brooke Van Velden that have been haunting this House and have made me recall back, actually, right back into the 1990s. And those words were that no workers will be any worse off without fair pay agreements. And so what that reminded me of, Madam Speaker, was back to the employment Contracts Act of 1991 when I was a supermarket worker. And in those days, my hourly rate was $4.20 an hour, which doesn't sound like much, but when you're 16 and you get paid penal rates at the weekend, double time, $8.40 is not a bad wage. On top of that, you would get an allowance for a meal break, so that actually made it worth turning up to work, and it gave you a bit of money. But when the Employment Contracts Act came in, when they asked us to sign, they said those same words, that no worker will be worse off if they sign this contract. And do you know what? We bloody well were. Because each time I got a pay increase, there was something in my pay called a personalised difference. And while my hourly rate went up, my penal rates disappeared, my allowances disappeared. And it took me 3 years until I was 19 years old to earn the same amount of money I was earning as a 16-year-old. And that is the same mentality that is being applied to our workers here in New Zealand. It won't be any worse off, but it damn well won't be any better either. And who benefits from that? It's those people creaming it at the top, while our essential workers who are slogging their guts out every day, teaching our kids, cleaning our floors, driving our buses, they want to skim that money off and keep it in their own pockets. And that's what I say is unfair and damn right shameful and selfish. So when the Employment Contracts Act came in, we've taken a long time to make gains in it. And I want to correct a couple of misinformation points that have been put across in this House today. And the number one that's really important is productivity. What the last speaker has said, that this piece of legislation, before it was repealed, would hamper or impede productivity. Well, the OECD and a lot of those people who have done research, including the Right Honourable Jim Bolger, have been on the page of saying that this would be good for New Zealand's productivity. And the key reason for that is it stops the race to the bottom. It stops those bad employers and disincentivises bad employment conditions and poor wages. And it rewards those good employers who care about their employees, who pay them a decent wage. And they get benefits for that. They get benefits for that because they get good quality products. They get higher IP. We get great products that we can sell and have innovation across the world and be known for our number 8 wire mentality that distinguishes New Zealand from other countries. But those opposite want to take us back to 1991. They're not interested in being cutting edge. They're not interested in using our brains and our smarts to put ourselves further. They're going to take us back and they're going to take the money off those people who are essential workers when we needed them the most. And that's what really disappoints me. Because if we incentivise our employers to be good employers, then the competition is who's got the best. Who's got the best product? Who's got the most innovative way of doing it? Not who can be the quickest one to race to the bottom, to pay workers the less, to be giving them poorer conditions in order to be making your profit margin larger. That's what the kind of playing field that this government has drawn up for New Zealand workers. And that is what is so unfair about repealing something that would actually increase productivity and reward those employers that take good, hard-working New Zealanders for what they are, that they're an asset to their business, not a detriment. So, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I would like to just round off by saying that during the times of COVID, I heard so many speeches from the National Party about how important our essential workers were, thanking them for their hours, thanking them for the difficulties and thanking them for how they went above and beyond to serve us when we needed it. And now they turn their back on those workers by giving them less right before Christmas. It's an absolute bloody disgrace, and I hope that they live to see what will happen, and that will be workers of New Zealand who stand up and fight back for behaviour that is selfish and self-serving.
I call Carl Bates.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill is of particular interest to me given actual experience in supporting employers to grow and employ more people throughout my career. During the campaign, I spoke to many concerned employers and employees about the impact of FPAs, impact on business sustainability and employee opportunities. FPAs are a blunt tool, Madam Speaker, initiated by unions and a small number of employees, yet they apply to every employee and employer in an industry or occupation, regardless, Madam Speaker, of whether or not they want it and want to be included. Businesses need flexibility to innovate, and FPAs restrict the flexibility both employers and employees want. Madam Speaker, as part of this government's 100-day plan to get New Zealand back on track, Madam Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.
I call the Honourable Willie Jackson.
Oh, well, it was great, Madam Chair, to hear about all the experience that previous member had, which was absolutely nothing. So thanks for that. Thank you for that nothing contribution, Madam Chair. I wanted to inform the House that I've got a lot of experience in this area too. Like Debbie Packer's whānau, I was also in the freezing works, Madam Speaker, in 1991 when sadly Jim Bolger and his horrible voluntary unionism setup came out. It's a sad thing, really, Jim Bolger, because he came right in later years, Madam Chair, you know, by supporting the Treaty of Waitangi, unlike the rest of this useless National Party and hopeless ACT Party and the New Zealand First lot, who've forgotten their roots, sadly. But in 91, the whole thought was we need more productivity. It's all about market flexibility. So we have to ask us, what the heck is market flexibility? What does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what that meant. It meant that they just wanted us to work more and more and more for bugger all. That's what that became, Madam Speaker. So market flexibility was workers work more and more and more, and you get more productivity. The company does well, but the workers miss out altogether. That's what market flexibility was under a national government. Ruth Richardson, Jim Bolger. As I said, Jim came right later on, and sadly Ruth Richardson didn't. And most of the National Party of that time was all about suppressing workers' rights. And at the time we had a huge membership in terms of unions. Sadly, I think that came down to about 20%. The basic thrust of that was get the workers working, as I said, at 100%, but also this whole facade about bargaining. You know, the whole view was an individual, Madam Chair, could negotiate for themselves. That's the thrust of all this legislation. You're a strong individual, you can do the business. But people know in the House, and if you've worked in the unions and you worked on the factory floor, which most of that lot haven't, and most of that wouldn't even know what a factory was. But if you've worked on the factory floor and you worked, you know, Madam Chair, that you can't negotiate because there's a total imbalance in terms of bargaining power. So the whole notion that individuals have a right and have a chance to negotiate is just a load of nonsense. And the bosses, sadly, through the years, have picked off people, and people have been lost. So that's been the strength of the unions. The unions have been able to negotiate on behalf of the individuals. This fair pay agreement, kaupapa, has been something that we as a party and we as a former government were very proud of. Very proud of, because it gave workers hope. Workers in the hospitality area, workers in the security area, bus drivers. These are the forgotten people of this country. Essential workers. These are the people who National don't care about. ACT don't care. You don't give a damn about them. It's really sad. To see a new minister going down this track is really, really, really disappointing. And I want to thank Michael Woods for the work he did in terms of putting this together. It was one of our proudest moments to have this fair bargaining kaupapa put in place. And repealing this initiative is nothing but an attack on some of our most valuable jobs and some of our most vulnerable workers.
Security workers, cleaners, hospitality workers, early childhood workers. They're under attack because there's a government up here who can't wait to put them under the courts. Have you ever noticed their counterintuitive logic? They want to help low-paid workers, so they're going to remove the floor. They want to help Māori, so they're going to attack the treaty. They want to help smoking, so they're going to make smoking more available. They're worried about the climate, so they're going to make drilling easier and remove the clean car discount. They can't wait to do things, so they're busy undoing things. That's all they're doing, is undoing things. We know there's a race to the bottom for workers in all of these industries. Employers compete against each other on the cost of labour. They compete against each other and win by screwing down the workers. And the ones who screw down the workers the most win the business. That's why we need minimum floors across these industries. That's why Australia has minimum floors. That's why the Europeans have minimum floors. That's why they have better wages than us, better jobs, better conditions, and oh, by the way, higher productivity. We are going back not to 2017, we're going back to 1991. 1991's the last time a national-led government attacked workers and attacked industry bargaining with the Employment Contracts Act. This is a major back on track. This is back to the dark ages. This is not the right time to be doing this. But we know one thing, when they speak out both sides of their mouth, we're not fooled for a minute. And we know that when workers' rights are under attack, stand up, fight back. When workers' rights are under attack, stand up, fight back. When workers' rights are under attack, stand up, fight back. When workers' rights are under attack, stand up, fight back. Kia ora.
Kia ora everyone, Rob Brooks, Amalgamated Workers Union Secretary. Welcome, thank you for turning up. I just want to mihi to our little tamariki over there who today come as defenders of the workers' rights. Kia koutou. We're not here protesting, we're here defending workers' rights. You know, they say in the House, the protesters have arrived. No, the defenders have arrived. We're not going to stand by and let this government think that they're going to attack the most vulnerable workers in the country and we're not going to say something. We're also going to make sure if they do this, every year on the anniversary that they've done it, we'll front up again. And we'll remind them all the way to the next election. This is not the 90s. The unions are not going to go away this time. 30 years later, after they tried to get rid of us in the 90s, we're still here and we're fighting stronger. So we need to make sure that these guys, their 100-day plan, and I'm putting it to our friends over here, if they can have a 100-day plan that gets rid of fair pay agreements, we're going to expect a 100-day plan in any left government going forward that puts it back in place. So the message is not just to the current government, the message is to any incoming government. We expect to see it not in term 2 or term 3, we expect it to see it in your 100-day plan. I just want to really reach out to those poor bus drivers over there. Nowhere else in the country do you get told, go home during the day and have a 4-hour break. You know? Imagine if your boss said to you, oh no, go home, have a 4-hour break, come back to work. We wouldn't put up to it. The other thing is, it's up to us to fight for this, because not only here, but the RSE workers as well. They come over here and they go back with very little money, because by the time the bosses and everyone else have clicked the ticket, you know, they go back to Vanuatu, they go back to the Pacific Nations with not a lot to show for their work. So it is about standing up for everyone, all the vulnerable, not just some of them. You know, opening up the borders to bring in immigrants, listening to business representatives saying this morning, oh, we don't need it. Well, tell that to all the workers who got ripped off in the restaurants. Yeah? So absolutely we need it. I agree with Richard. This is about, it's not about setting a ceiling, but it's not unreasonable for us to expect the floor. It's not unfair for us to expect to get the cowboys out of the industries. Let the good payers do the business, but let's stop the cowboys driving wages down. That's why we're here today. Thank you so much for coming. Look, I don't know any flesh start, so I'm just going to say fair pay, and I'm going to hope you say needs to stay. Fair pay. Needs to stay. Fair pay. Needs to stay. Fair pay. Needs to stay. Kia ora. Thank you, everyone.
I'm a supermarket worker and I deserve better than this.
I work with hard-working people. We were essential workers during COVID. We really buttoned down to get the country through it. And this is the thanks we get. It's an act of robbery. They're taking it from us. They are giving it to, it really only benefits the most greedy and exploitative employers. Anyone who wants to do the right thing has to put themselves at a disadvantage because the floor that we were expecting and that we deserved is being taken away. We deserve better than this. Our brothers and sisters all across all these sectors deserve better than this. We're not going to take this lying down. We are going to keep on fighting. Thank you.
Ia momona o whaatalo whātu pa ia lasi wa whia lene tū lau lea whiawhi mā lōsoi fua manuia ma le langi e mamā. We are privileged to stand alongside you. Well done for turning out today. My name's Efeso. I'm here with our Green Party team, and we're here because we stand with workers, the most impacted. When we take away fair pay agreements, the most impacted by a leaked document from the Minister's very own office will be women, will be Pacific people, will be Māori, will be our children, disabled. All of these people are going to be most affected when we take away fair pay agreements. Shame on this government. This is 100 days of absolute nonsense. They are stealing our Christmas. They will steal your Christmas, but they're stealing the futures of our children. It's our teachers, our ECE teachers, who are standing in front of our children every day making a major difference. It's our bus drivers who are making sure we keep this place running, and now they're trying to introduce oil drilling again because we've got to do more about our climate emissions and reduce our carbon emissions. This is about you. My mum was a cleaner. My mum was with Aotearoa, was with the Service and Food Workers Union for years, cleaning at Middlemore Hospital. It's mum who they're after. They're after our mums, they're after our dads, they're after you. We've got to continue to stand up and to fight back. This is not good enough. They are taking away the very rights that unions give us. That's what we're about. We're about collectivizing and making sure that everyone has fair agreements, has fair conditions so that we can do well in work. So don't let them steal the future of your children. Don't let them steal your futures as well. And don't let them steal our fair pay agreements. We are going to fight. We're here today because we're going to represent you and keep speaking up for you inside this weird, odd place that I've just been introduced to over the last 6 weeks. And so you're welcome to come on in. We should just walk on in. I don't know if we're allowed to do that, but that's what I'd like to do. They say it's your whare, so let's take over this whare and let's make sure that we're voting and speaking up for you. It's time to stand up, fight back, and make sure we keep a future that belongs to all of us and to all of our children. Keep strong. We've got you. We've got your backs. We're in this together, and we'll continue to stand with you for always. Thank you, and thank you very much.
Tēnā koutou katoa ngā mihi kia koutou e hui hui mai nei tēnei rā. My name is Camilla Bellich. I am Labour's Workplace Relations and Safety spokesperson, and I'm joined here by my Labour colleagues. And I can tell you one of the proudest moments of my time in Parliament was when we stood in the House and we passed the Fair Pay Agreement. I was proud that day because I know that all the work that you do as leaders within the union movement, as representatives of workers, as working people, had led up to that moment. It had allowed us, New Zealand, to have a path forward for industry level bargaining that would have resulted in fair pay and conditions for some of our lowest paid workers. Bus drivers, security guards, supermarket workers, cleaners, ECE workers. All of these workers are worth so much to New Zealand. They don't have the terms and conditions that they need to feel secure in work. Fair pay agreements was a way forward. The rest of the world knows that that's how to get to a high wage economy, is through secure work and secure terms and conditions. And that's what fair pay agreements would have done. And I couldn't be more disappointed in this anti-worker government who, in its first 100 days, have prioritised not only getting rid of fair pay agreements, which affects the wages of workers, but also attacking jobs through the bill that our colleagues are debating under urgency in the House at the moment. getting rid of that focus on employment. They don't care about working people's jobs. They don't care about their terms and conditions. It's absolutely shameful. So we will be speaking in the House today. We will be putting through amendments. We will be doing everything we can to fight this anti-worker government. And we will remember this day, the 13th of December, as the day when this government, this coalition government of ACT, National and New Zealand First, turned back the clock on New Zealand, took New Zealand backwards, took us back to a time where working people weren't valued in this country. But we will also look to today as the start of our fight back against this government, because we will not take this lying down. We will fight this government every step of the way. Now I look to all of you and I see people who have worked for working people their entire lives. You have done so much work to get this legislation in place, and we will not be forgetting that. We will be working hard to make sure that this government lasts as short as it possibly can, and the first thing we do as a newly elected Labour government will be bringing back industry awards, we'll be bringing back rights and terms and conditions for people. Now, I know a lot of you worked, as I did, with one of our union leaders, Helen Kelly, and I remember speaking to her before she died, and she said to me, Camilla, how can I stop fighting? And she said to me, I just can't. And so we will take that message today. We in the Labour Party will not stop fighting for working people. We will continue this fight until we win and until we get the pay and conditions that working people in New Zealand deserve.
Awesome, Camilla.
Atamaria, tēnā koutou, ngami kia koutou kua tai mai. So first of all, I want to mihi to you all to be here today. It's frustrating that we're here fighting for fair pay when we should be actually looking at the sky and the ceiling and fighting for great pay. So we're rewinded backwards consistently. And as a daughter of a freezing worker, the mother of a cleaner, a woman who was a cleaner, worked in the grocery store, I don't believe that we're here just for who we are seeing today. We are here for all of my whānau, all of your whānau, all of our mokopuna, all of those who haven't got voices and actually have to be doing triple shifts to actually get through, to actually be able to make it to Christmas. So I just want to assure you that Te Pāti Māori is here standing with you in solidarity. Standing with you in solidarity, not just to keep the floor, but to also get past this and look at what we need to be for the ceiling, because we shouldn't be consistently trying to hold on to a grievance state. The reality is we have a government whose primary objective is productivity. Productivity, profit before people, profit before the planet, profit before anything else that matters. And we're in trouble. We are in serious trouble if we don't stand together. And as a party that doesn't focus on 100 days, we're 100 years focused. We're 100 years focused. Not interested in what a short-term government is going to do and destroy to our whānau in an everyday way. So we have to stay united, we have to stay together, keep the pressure on. We start urgency today. I'm disgusted that we're debating this on urgency, no select committee, nothing else that's going to go out and give us the opportunity to have your voices heard. Never been so disgusted in the government in my life other than the one that did the foreshore and seabed, and we don't talk about that anymore. We've moved on. But the reality is, whānau, is that you can trust all of those of us that are standing here, because there's one thing that we all agree on, and that is the rights of our people. The rights of workers, the rights of ordinary people, the rights of our tangata whenua, our tangata Pacifica are always left behind. Always left behind. This is so much more than fighting for our reo, our treaty. This is actually about us in Aotearoa fighting for ourselves as the grassroots who make this nation what it is. So we're here for you. We will fight in the House for you. We will be bowled over by people who have never ever put their blinking sleeves up in their lives. The 2% that own the 50% of the wealth in Aotearoa, the people who spend $440,000 to get one MP in versus us who spend $17,000. That is what you're contending with. Wealth, 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 and greed. So be really clear what we're fighting here. Stay united. Remember, we've got your backs, as the brother before us said, and we will continue to fight. This has to be the start of us coming together. We have to stay united, because this is going to be a hell of a long 3 years, assuming they can stay together. And after what I've seen this week, I'm not convinced they will. Anyway, whānau, Rawiri and I, our whole party, we support you, we see you, we hear you, and we will continue to fight proudly for you in the House. Make sure you do what's needed on the outside, and I agree. Those who can get into the gallery today should. I don't know the tikanga when you'll be protesting, but do it. Do it anyway. Be like Te Pāti Māori. Just do it in spite of what they say. Kia kaha whānau.
Okay, my friend here has a message for all of us.
Value us!
Value us. I'm Stephanie from Aotearoa. With me are Hannah and Megan and some of the amazing tamariki from one of the ECE centres here in Wellington. I think the message is value us. The fact that parents at that centre trust their teachers with their tamariki every day and here at the people's house, the whare of the people, shows that we have the public behind us. Treasury said fair pay agreements were going to be good for women, for Māori, for Pacifica, for young people, for migrant workers. I mean, who wasn't it good for? The rich and some old white guys in the house here. So we're here to say that ECE teachers, ECE kaimahi deserve fair pay, because if we don't pay the teachers of our younger citizens properly, what are we saying about our tamariki? What are we saying about our future as a society? So we're here with the tamariki to say we will continue to fight for fair pay, for good conditions, for better ratios, for an education system that values te tiriti, education that values te reo mina tikanga, education that values our younger citizens as much as students at any age. And so for us, this is a battle that's going to continue, and we obviously welcome the support of all the political parties that support fair pay agreements and support the rights of people working in ECE. So thank you, and kia kaha to my colleagues. They were a little bit stunned about being asked to speak about a minute ago, so they said I had to, but these are amazing women, amazing wahine toa, and thank you for coming along to support their fight, our fight, and the fight for our children. Kia ora.
Kia ora everyone, my name is Madeleine. I work in hotels. I am a delegate with Unite Union. Hotels have been a historically very exploited industry, especially for women and migrants. We have had a lot of issues of migrants not getting paid correctly or having their visas taken away from them because of these horrible hotel corporations. And we needed these FPAs to keep them in check. They were not acting the way they were supposed to. They were not treating us correctly. And these people in the House are responsible.
Yeah. Yep.
Did Labour fight for it? How hard did they fight for it?
Very minimal.
Kia ora. But the fight isn't over. It's not over. And the petition that we sent in this morning should be a beacon of hope for you guys, and we will not stop fighting.
Thank you, everyone. All right, so we're just about there. I think it's pretty clear that corporate greed is not what we want here. It's pretty clear a naive belief in trickle-down economics is not what we want here. We want a government that puts people first, and we need to make our voices heard so that they hear that we expect to be put first. There's going to be a debate up in the House and the debating chamber later this afternoon, about 3 o'clock onwards. Everyone's welcome to fill the gallery. Don't bring your flags, but bring your heart. And we'll let them know how we feel then. I'm very conscious I'm not going to say fight like hell because someone did that once in front of. Anyway, let's finish with a chant, and thank you again, everyone, for coming here. What do we want? Fair pay. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Fair pay. When do we want it? Now. Kia ora, everybody. Thank you very much. Keep the fight up. Keep the strength. Kia kaha.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. During the process of developing fair pay agreement legislation and in the months since the Act has been in force, one of the things that we've heard repeatedly from working people is the sense of hope that fair pay agreements have given them and how sorely needed that was. Unions have heard that, and we need you to know that fair pay agreements aren't gone for forever. We will be fighting to bring back fair pay agreements in the future because we know that industry standard bargaining is so important for the terms and conditions, for the pay, for the career progression, for the general livelihoods of workers in New Zealand. So we're committed to ensuring that in the future fair pay agreements are brought back. It's really important that in order to support that, we keep talking about them. We keep talking about the challenges that we experience at work in New Zealand. And we keep talking about the aspiration that we have for what work in New Zealand could be like. The fact that we want for people to be paid fairly, to find work satisfying, to have great skills and training development so that they can grow in their careers and that there are tangible career progressions that they can follow. That we want for working people to have great health and safety. So it's important that we keep talking about the challenges and also keep talking about the solutions, talking about why it is that having minimum standards which apply across industries is so important for working people, but more broadly than that, for our communities, for our economy, for our country as a whole. So keep talking to your friends and family about fair pay agreements. Keep talking about the challenges at work. If you haven't already, make sure you join your union so that you can be a part of the fight to bring back fair pay agreements.